how we could help restaurants manage in this new situation where a lot of their business was going on online, and a lot of the incumbent tools in the marketplace that they use, like their POS or their delivery apps, weren't really providing the tools that they need for doing that. So any given restaurant may have, it may be enrolled on any number of different of applications for managing their business. They have their tableside ordering or the QR codes that you scan to see their menu. They have reservation platforms. Here in Singapore, there's at least 2 major ones. You could probably count with 3 or 4 if you wanted to expand your definition. There's online ordering, there's survey apps. There's all the different delivery apps which have transaction data, how much money they're making, as well as reviews data. There's direct messages that they receive on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. In other markets, SMS or apps like Telegram and Line app are very important. And so there's all these different kind of apps. There's all this to basically manage. And a lot of restaurants are pressed for time and their margins are low, so they can't really hire teams to handle all of that. And so what we do is we integrate with all of these different applications and bring it into Momos. For example, on the customer service end, we bring in feedback from reviews. We allow restaurants to reply to their reviews on all of these different platforms, bidirectionally. We bring in their direct messages. We have some in-house technology for gathering surveys and for sending out vouchers, handling kind of loyalty. We've attempted to replace email. We basically remove the contact us email from customers' websites and replace it with a form that is also dumped into our inbox. And we also track transactions, sales data on all these applications. So just the goal is to become, an operating system, if you will, for restaurants, for everything that sits ahead of the sale. So, we don't want to be the POS, but everything that happens before, marketing, engagement, and everything that happens after with respect to reviews and analytics on their revenue, we want to do that too. And so, you may have the question, what does AI figure into this? Where do we use it? And so I'm going to go through 3 examples of things that we use GPT-3 for. We were fortunate enough from the very beginning to get into the beta for GPT-3. So we've been using it for a little over 2 years. And, as we were starting to use this technology, it's very funny to see, because over that time, and, things have changed very quickly in the last 6 to 9 months, the big hot thing in tech at the time was Web3 and NFTs, and people were figuring out, what is the best way to, fake copyright a JPEG. And meanwhile, we're dealing with this technology that to us was absolutely revolutionary, and nobody was talking about it at the time. But with the release of ChatGPT, there's been much more press around it. Now you kind of can't get away from it. But I really do feel like it is probably the deserved amount of attention for something this huge. So I'll go through 3 things that we use GPT-3 for, and kind of talk about how it helps us doing that. So the first thing is for review classification. And this is something that's pretty simple, right? Text classification is something that's very standard for, in data science and machine learning. There's a lot of models for doing that out there already. And so this is something that we use GPT-3 for. And what we do is we basically break down the reviews and we go sentence by sentence and we assess, what is this sentence about? Is it about food quality? It's about portion prices. We have a set list of maybe 10, 12 things that a sentence can be about. And then we assess the sentiment. So sentiment analysis, again, kind of a very, very common use of machine learning and data science. And then once we get through the entire review, we figure out what are the most common themes within this review. We assess the aggregate sentiment around these things. And then that's how you get this classification for a single review, but then you can also get the analytics. We can aggregate all of this up over the course of any period of time, any platform, or any set of locations for the store. And, you might, and this is going to be kind of a recurring theme. You might say, that this isn't all that revolutionary. There's been a lot of products that kind of do this and have been doing this for a long time. But let's look at where Momo's was at 6 months old, or, I think we probably started working at this when we were around 3 months old. And we had less than 10 people. We had 0 data scientists. We had not gotten our seed funding yet. So we did have some money that we raised from friends and family round. And that's about it, right? And so we had access to this tool, to GPT-3, that we were able to use to build a product that did this, with next to nothing. I do very, very lightweight coding in Python. I actually didn't know Python until I started working at Momo's. I knew R and kind of figured out how to call the OpenAI API through it, spun up a little Lambda, and with the help of, head of engineering Leland, and, with good support in DevOps, we were just kind of able to get that script up. And that became the first thing that really worked for us. And the first thing that we were actually able to get people to sign and pay us for. And that was something where I think it took me a day to write the original script. And once you do that, and then all you need to assess how well it works is just a little bit of SQL, pull down some of these classifications and validate that it works well. And out of the box, it worked really well. In the meantime, since then, we have hired out a data science team, and they've been able to improve it through iteration. But we're talking about like an 80-20 thing, where just this original script with very, very little maintenance, GPT-3 is basically able to get us to that 80% point. And it was the data science team that got us that incremental, 10%, 15% in accuracy, which is amazing. But the fact that you can get so far with so little, I think that is a huge part of the revolution with this tool, right? You're going to see and continue to see, if you're following this on Twitter, or in the media in general, you're going to see these things where like it's a lot of generative AI. It's writing whole novels or writing articles, or doing very, very creative and interesting stuff. But I think this is a very prime example of the kind of thing that that like maybe the kind of the what's going on underwater, like the stuff that you're seeing on social media is more of like kind of the tip of the iceberg, I guess. So the next one is a chatbot. And again, you might say like there's tons of companies that do chatbots. What's so special about this is, this has been around since 2015. And, there's a ton of companies in this space, and restaurants already use them. So why even bother competing? Well, we were uniquely positioned for this because we do know a lot of data about our restaurants through all of our integrations. We know things like where are they located, what do they serve on their menu, it just like any number of different things. Are they halal? Are they vegetarian? And we have this information already. So we're well positioned to basically give information to the chatbot. And it's also about, the economics of it, which we can talk about later. But if you look at any incumbent companies that are building chatbots, they are in that situation where they have hired out, very, very large data science teams, and they're building out these, all this infrastructure that they've accumulated over 5-10 years. It's very difficult, if not impossible, for them to reverse course and pursue this sort of thing that we are lucky enough to be able to use. That's much, much cheaper. And so what we do here is actually not too different from those companies. Maybe, and this can kind of go in the con side against, GPT-3, but a lot of what you see with these kind of chatbots with ChatGPT, you're talking to it and it's free-forming answers to you, right? And so it feels very human, and it's very interesting, and that's great for consumer products where there's not a lot on the line, because you are willing to tolerate a little bit of when it messes up, right? A little bit of speculation, maybe it's rude to you, maybe it gets something wrong. We actually fine-tuned it so it works underneath the hood. This is actually just a classification model, just like reviews. We are able to see that the message that's sent in is about, dietary restrictions or menu or something like that, and we fetch a prescribed answer. We did some experimentation with making the chatbot work more like ChatGPT, but ultimately it was too willing to give the wrong answer sometimes. Even if we instructed it that the restaurant is vegetarian, sometimes it would say it was, sometimes it would say it wasn't. And so that's sort of application is very interesting, but again, kind of to focus back on the idea that like a lot of what is very good about this stuff is it makes existing applications just an order of magnitude easier to build and cheaper as well. So this is one of the things that we do here. And then this is kind of the fun thing, this is one of these harder and more like the kind of things that you might see kicking around for GPT-3 ChatGPT. We also handle marketing for our restaurants, and so we have a direct connection with Facebook. We've simplified the menu for creating Facebook ads, and we've aligned them around goals that a restaurant might have. So do they want to capture more reviews? Do they want to get in-store sales? Do they want to get delivery sales? And we've built the experience around that, around a kind of an idea that we call few-click Facebook ads. We want them to do as little work as possible setting this up. And one of the things that we built for that was an ad copy recommender that is based off of GPT-3. And again, just like with the chatbot, we're well positioned to do this because we know a lot about our restaurants that we can take as inputs into the ad. Earlier in the ad menu, they specified this is what I want this ad to be about, so we can take that input. And we also import all of their previously run ads. So we know kind of their brand voice, and you're able to instruct that and send that back to GPT-3 for them to use. And so we can create very good creatives already to start with. And then we can give this menu that gives them, we've only given them really 3 knobs here, brand voice, unique selling point, and slogan. But this can be used to further, refine what they want for their ads. So just kind of 2 examples. I did one where I asked it to make an ad in Singlish and Singaporean slang. Judge for yourself how good it is, but it does know what that means. It gives you a little law there at the end, so that's fun. And then on this one, I've asked it to be sarcastic and give us a unique selling point. It's 39 craft beers on tap. And you can see that comes through, right? It says, are you tired of eating the same old boring food? Come here and you can have 39 different types of beer on tap. And that's all pretty much instantaneous. And restaurants that use this can experiment with it. They can run it as many times as they want. If you're asking what these are, we also pull in reviews as a form of advertisement. So these are 5-star reviews of the restaurant, and those are automatically populated as well. So ignore these, but these ones in the middle are the main thing. So what are the pros of using GPT-3? And I'm sure we could generalize this to any of the large language models that are out there, because surely GPT-3 will not be the last the last step in this evolution. And Leela and I were actually talking about this morning. I don't know how long OpenAI can really maintain the kind of moat and notoriety that they have on this. Like, this stuff is just going to kind of be everywhere. But ease of use, right? We're ready to build, we can build production ready features that used to take entire teams of people and lots of work and pipelines, and we can just do it. With like, I'm not a software engineer. I'm a product manager. I majored in political science, guys. But like, you can write a script that actually does that with just like a little bit of eng oversight, which is huge. It's very, very flexible. So it's capable for a lot of different things. An example, actually, to go back to our chatbot is, so what we did was we built this model and its classification model, and we reviewed the chat conversations of all the customers that we had at the time, something like 18,000 messages. And we went through it and we identified a number of different categories that were common across all of them. And those are things like location, menu, dietary restrictions, all these things. So we have this kind of prescribed list of something like 10 categories for the chatbot. And so we set about to start pitching it to restaurants. And what we thought, it's like on a population level, we're like, oh, these should cover 70–80% of the queries that any restaurant receives. But every restaurant that we pitch to would come to us and say, oh, we have this really unique request that takes up like a huge portion of the messages just for us. So one example was, there was a customer that was a bakery, and they say, we get a lot of our queries about cake customization. So can you support a category and an answer around cake customization? And, building that into our standard model is not going to make a lot of sense. And so we said, okay, well, we'll think about it. But, in the back of our minds, we're like, oh, maybe that's not going to work for them. Then we had another customer who is a beach club. And so they get a huge bulk of their questions are about towel rental. People just want to know if they can rent a towel there. And, we can't build towel rental into our main model. That doesn't make any sense either. We're talking about maintaining this massive taxonomy at this point. And then we just had this idea that okay, so we have this fine-tuned version of GPT-3 that is answering these strict categories that are, answering the questions from customers. How can we accommodate these custom ones? And what we realized is we can actually ask our merchants to define categories for us. So we basically ask them for the name of the category, say towel service, and we ask them for 3 to 5 examples of what that kind of question might be like. And then we send that to a better model of GPT-3 to DaVinci. And we do that as few shot learning. And we just say to GPT-3, okay, here's these categories of question. Which category does this message from the user fall into? So it's much more open and less constrained than the model that we use. And so we basically run the standard model first, then we fall back to the custom categories. And so we had this idea, we were able to implement it within a week, and it works really, really well. It's actually quite amazing. And so again, the flexibility that you have to be able to use this exact same model, that you don't have to maintain different models for all these different purposes. You can just do kind of slight variations. And with the same API, we're able to do that chatbot, do custom categories, do reviews, do ads, everything, right? And then the economics, right? And I don't want to reveal anything, confidential, but our monthly OpenAI bill is more than an order of magnitude cheaper than the average data scientist salary for a month, more than. And it's a no-brainer for us. And this doesn't even begin to include infrastructure costs, labeling, training data. We did have to pay for a little bit of that to train the fine-tune model, but we haven't had to go through a bunch of iterations with that. Building out the pipelines, and that was just something, frankly, we did not have the expertise for early on. And we were able to get our idea off the ground, up and running, build it into something that we were able to receive funding for, and then we can have that supporting team of experts that, when empowered with this tool, maybe we need fewer people with that kind of experience, but then, data scientists are able to kind of take it and run with it and apply it in all sorts of other interesting ways. And so in terms of cons, you've probably realized this, but the over-reliance, right? And that's for us as a company and also as an industry. For us, we rely on OpenAI for so much stuff. And we're susceptible to price increases, outages, regulatory scrutiny, performance, just falling off, if the model just decides to not work very well because they change something, that's something that we don't really have a lot of recourse for. Now, I will say in the future, and, one could argue in the present, but I think it's going to be better in the future, that there are open source models that are similar that you could self-host. And I think that the competition in that space is going to grow over time. And also, I think the scale of the jumps in improvement in these models is already starting to slow down. GPT-3 beat its nearest competitor, which is Microsoft Turing at the time, by again, an order of magnitude. So it's just much, much, much better. But since GPT-3 came out, there have been a number of other models that have come out. Google's released things, Facebook has released things, and it's all pretty, it's all just a little bit better. And even ChatGPT is a marginal improvement on GPT-3 that is wrapped in a nice UI that is very consumer friendly. So I think the open source models are really going to catch up, and then that might be, kind of your pivot option if you start to encounter problems with the single provider. But so far that has been the only con, and it's only hypothetical, really. And this is just the baseline of what we want to do with this model. There's all sorts of other ideas that we have. And yeah, so I'd be interested to hear questions that are phrased around, what are kind of the downsides of this situation. But that's been our experience with working with it. It's been overwhelmingly positive and nothing but just a massive boon to our company and our business. So yeah, looking forward to the questions, but I guess I'll just hand it off.
Great. Thank you, Grant. So just a reminder, we'll be using the Zoom chat to collect questions for our speakers. So if you do have questions, please ask them over Zoom chat anytime, and our Ariel from our community team will be helping to collect them for later. Right. So next up, we have Hubert, who will be sharing his experiences as well. Something I've noticed is that during the course of Grant's talk, the number of lilies that we have in today's event has grown to like 10 persons. And someone I know has also renamed, that I know doesn't call himself Lily, is also called Lily now. So just a reminder to rename yourself before you ask any questions, yeah? So we know whom to attribute the questions back to. Okay, great. Sorry, Hubert, time is all yours.
Awesome. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Wonderful. Hi, everyone. My name is Chihwei. You can also call me Hubert. I'm currently an entrepreneur in residency. I recently just left Airbnb last year. Before that, I was an engineer manager working at Airbnb for 7 years. And I can definitely echo a lot of what Gwen just shared. Airbnb has a lot of data scientists working on machine learning model, solving customer service issues, doing a lot of classification problem. And all of a sudden, those efforts are basically being offered to everyone on the street to build your new business. So it's such an exciting time for everyone to be able to leverage that. And I also take the opportunity around this time, since I have extra time to explore, I work with my friends to explore the generated AI. And this is a definition coming back from the ChatGPT. What else can better describe it? Right? So now that you ChatGPT or GPT-3 definitely provide some form of generated AI. It can generate some text, leveraging machine learning model or language model. Also, recently there have been a lot of popular AI generated images, like the cat ears that you see. I actually generate that through Midjourney. So that actually offer a lot of very powerful tools to us nowadays. I'm a terrible drawer. I can never draw something like this, but now it can help me to generate a photo or a drawing like this in just seconds with a few prompts. So that's super exciting. And now, like generated AI allow us to produce a lot of content, like just with some prompt. And the prompt could just be as simple as, hey, write a performance review for me, someone named Hubert, right? So, and then ChatGPT can just do that for you. And then so now the cost for us to generate something, then the human to review it is much lower than before. Previously, as an engineer manager, I have more than 10 direct reports, and I also have a lot of peers I cooperate with, and every year I have to write as much as like 25 performance review in a short period of time. And then at that time, I have to, of course, I want to put a lot of thought into it and make sure I provide useful feedback to them, both to recognize their contribution as well to provide them some point about growth area. So it took me a lot of time, but eventually I found like what I created are not necessarily the best. Depending on the first few guys probably get the best copy from me, right? And the last one, and sometimes the last one is actually my own performance review. I have no time to write it, so I rush to it. So now with generated AI, I could actually create a lot of copy in a short period of time. I compare them and edit that. And it's almost serves for like my own personal assistant. I ask them to write it, and I can criticize them as much as possible, and I don't have to worry about hurting their feeling. And then the final result is actually a better version of myself. So I think that's super exciting, and that's why we create Campbell. But the other observation we have is earlier I covered like writing peer review is actually a pretty grinding process. But the other part is written communication is actually harder than face-to-face communication. You don't have a lot of body language to provide us a clue, right? And then sometimes people read things differently, especially for the performance review. There are cases that some people read my performance review. I try to ask them for improvement, but they read it as an encouragement that they have done an awesome job. So finding that fine balance actually requires someone who actually know the context. And that context actually need to be provided by human, not by the AI. So AI does not know the strengths or the weakness of my team members. I'm the one who actually work with them, right? AI could help me scan through their GitHub repos, finding the bug or incident trigger, but eventually how they perform is something that I can provide input. And AI also does not know the right way to communicate with my teammate. Everyone's different. Some people, they are more sensitive. So any slight criticism or even the encouragement for improvement could be read as very negative. They sometimes think, oh, I got a terrible review, but essentially I just say, you're awesome. There's only a very tiny thing that you need to improve. On the other hand, there are people who are very insensitive, right? So like I said, they read things very differently. So how I'm the one who actually know what's the right way to communicate with this person because I'm a human. So the vision we want to provide, or this experiment we are trying to do is we want to build a product like an AI assistant to help to draft the performance review based on a few key highlights. So you can adjust the outcome based on the performance rating, can specify intended tones to deliver a message clearly, dramatically reduce the effort to write performance review as the outcome. So with that, this was a hackathon. So we actually use a very standard tech stack. We use Next.js, Firebase as our backend, OpenAI GPT-3 API, use Stripe as payment in case some people actually want to pay for it. So let's take a look at the demo. Can you see my screen here?
Yes.
Awesome, cool. So try for free. And then here's, let's write a review for myself, not for Victor's. Say, suppose I'm a senior software engineer. I want to give myself C expectation, mentor for the junior member. Okay, let me actually leave this typo here. I think that's the other awesome things. It actually helped me fix all my typos. So let me just hit generate here. And in just a few seconds, OpenAI can help me write a full-length performance review. Chihwei is a senior engineer who has been a great mentor for junior member of the team. That's the point I provided. He has strong technical background, able to provide guidance. So now I can just read this and then take the pieces I feel like could be a useful one. And you can probably notice here, like it actually fixed my typo as well. And Victor also mentioned, like in the advanced option, you can actually customize it further. You can adjust the tones so that it can be more serious or delightful in the way you like. And some people probably noticed the language option here. So I just picked Chinese in case I don't actually speak Chinese, but all my direct report are actually Chinese. I want to impress them with my Chinese writing skill this time. So I can actually generate that as well.
The scariest part of any live demo.
I know, I'm scared.
I was not so brave.
Yeah. No, still generating and hopeful. Yeah, but this echo Grant's points, like if OpenAI went down, probably my website will be down as well. Interestingly, it also tried to translate my my name from English to Chinese incorrectly, but it's fine. This is hard, but you probably can see, like, for the most part, it's actually reasonable Chinese. Like it's actually something that probably come from a native speaker. So yeah, so it's a pretty amazing tools that we did as a hackathon. And then we're pretty excited about this program, and we just launched it, I think, right after Christmas. So far it has been only less than 20, I think a little bit more than 25 days so far, and then we actually got like 4,100, more than 4,100 visitors, more than 700 registered users, and 1,400 review generated. And we even have converted paid users. So some people actually think this is something they want and willing to pay for it. So that's super exciting. Some lesson learned here. So I think this is actually a very exciting time in our life. I think generated AI could further democratize the power of AI to the general public. Yes, OpenAI or some big company can monopolize the power of that, but still, like, most people still enjoy that as a benefit. If you remember, if you are old enough like me, back in the day when I was younger, I have to pay for my email, right? So you pay like maybe 100 Taiwanese dollar to get your 100 megabytes of emails inbox so that people can send you email, right? And nowadays, like, Gmail sort of monopolize this space, but it actually give you more than what we had before. So I think this is definitely a very positive thing. And as a result, like, website that aim to solve a problem like performance review with AI could flourish in the coming month. I think it's not coming years, it's coming month, it's coming. And then people like Grants are going to leverage this to create a lot of creative solution for enterprise, big and small. I think that's also super exciting. Chatbot reviews, copy generators, all those things are coming to us. And what's the opportunity for you? So like our experience for Campbell, right? So AI could generate performance review, but it doesn't know what to generate, right? So there's still a human connection required there, right? And I think communication is still something we human can do better, and we know how to do better. So think about the opportunity there, try to fill the gap between human and AI will probably bring you a next big opportunity. Cool. With that, I would like, maybe we can go to some panel question, and then happy to answer more questions later.
Awesome, great. Thank you, Hubert. So let me share my screen. Yeah. So I've noticed that Grant, you have also renamed yourself. It's gonna create more room for confusion, but that's okay. Let's go through the panel discussions. Like I shared at the beginning, most of the questions here were collected from the attendees. All of you, when you registered for the event, we have rephrased some of them depending on the topic. But if there's something that you want to follow up and ask, please be sure to use the Zoom chat room, yeah? All right, so let's go over to the first question. So for Grant, or rather Lily now, so for yourself as a product leader, how do you think like future product development will change, with the advent of these tools such as ChatGPT?
Yeah, so I think in my presentation, I was pointing out how much easier it makes the process of development, and the kind of the amount of expertise that that it abstracts away, that you maybe don't need to have to reach the same outcomes that you may have had it developing something like 10 years ago. But that's mostly talking from the development side. But from the product side, if you hunt around, you will definitely see some tools that people are creating for designing product specs. So for writing the specifications for new features. And there's really interesting stuff going on with generative AI when it comes to images, with like DALL-E 2 and Mid-Journey and things like that. And it's not hard to imagine how that could translate into generating wireframes or UI UX components within something like Figma. I believe I've actually seen a Figma plugin that claims to play with DALL-E a little bit to create components. Not sure how good that is yet. I would have low confidence that it's good right now, just from what I've seen, but certainly a direction that things could go. So it wouldn't be hard to imagine a fully figured kind of workflow that like goes from brainstorming ideas to creating specs for them to maybe designing some wireframes. And GPT-3 has also shown success in generating code. It does require supervision for doing that, but these are all things that could kind of plug into one another. And I've played with it a little bit myself. I've asked it to write specs for things that I'm actively working on, and it would probably write specs at the level of a junior PM, like at maybe a first year or somebody who's kind of training to be a PM. It's not as detailed as you'd like, and it doesn't explain things. I guess I'm saying the same thing twice, but it's just a little bit short, and it's not very thorough. But you can see where it could go, and especially if you purposely built an application around that, it could do that. Another thing that I thought of that was pretty funny was and this was kind of maybe 6 months ago or something like that. I told GPT-3, this is before they released ChatGPT. I was like, okay, we're Momos, we're this company, this is what we build. Brainstorm 10 feature ideas that we should build in the next half of the year. And I ran it again and I ran it again. So I got 30 ideas for features. And out of those 30 feature ideas, we're either actively developing, planning to develop, or had considered and thrown out 27 of them. So that's a pretty remarkable hit rate for an AI. So anyone who thinks it's not coming for your job because it's creative or involves writing or art, like I don't know. So I think it's going to be huge. I think it's going to be massive.
Awesome. So just as a follow-up question, because earlier in your talk you mentioned that you guys got access way ahead of everyone before they released ChatGPT. So what was your initial take and impression like that? I believe you would have wanted to share or shout out to the world that there's this amazing tool out there, but you can't because of things like NDA.
No, I mean, I would talk about it with friends and family and stuff, and even difficulty explaining it because people will say, is it like taking pieces of text from the internet and like putting them together? And people ask the same question about like DALL-E, the images. It's like, is it not just like doing a collage? And it's like, no, not quite. It's like kind of hard to explain this construct. But yeah, like I said earlier, it was just really wild to be working with that, and all the attention going to, I'll say the NFT Web3 stuff, which is absolutely taken a dive lately. But you saw like the Bored Ape Yacht Club getting like $9 billion in funding and stuff like that, and you're like, is anyone else watching this? But I also don't it wasn't a secret either. It nobody had built it into something that I guess just consumers could digest and play with, and like you really did have to. I mean, they have a sandbox playground feature on their in their dev panel, but like it's not as accessible as ChatGPT, and I think that's really what caused it to get out there.
Got it. All right, thank you. So in a similar vein, we have a
one more
sorry,
thing
yes.
before we leave this. So we use Notion for all of our kind of like project management, document creation, all that sort of stuff, and very conveniently, coincidentally, right around when ChatGPT was announced, they also announced an AI feature in Notion that brainstorms ideas for you, that will summarize text, that will expand text for you. So those productivity tools are being built in, and you can see Microsoft's investments in OpenAI the same way. They're going to start integrating this into Office everywhere. So yeah, just a couple more data points there.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, that reminded me that I'm supposed to check back on where I am in the Notion AI waitlist. When I first signed up, I was like on a waitlist position 290K or something. So hope it's moved out a couple of spots now. Yeah. So for Hubert, we have a similar question for you. So coming as an engineering leader, how do you think the future of software development will change?
Yeah, I think, like I said, it's very exciting, and then a lot of projects probably need to get re-evaluated, right? Especially for a company like Airbnb, probably need to look at what OpenAI can offer versus the in-house solution. I don't think they are competing directly at this point. All those knowledge or foundations are still very valuable, but at the same time, for example, the chatbot, right? So is it worthwhile to build chatbot from scratch at this point, even with other solutions that offer you some customization? And I think the other interesting part is for software developers, right? So recently I signed up for the Copilot product offered by GitHub, leverage ChatGPT to offer you coding suggestions. So let me share screen quickly. So I play around and took a few screenshots. Some of them are actually funny. So here's what's happening. So I actually you can type a function, and then once you have your curly braces, it can suggest a solution or the code it should be. As a reasonable, well-educated person, you probably can tell this is wrong, right? So if you want to calculate how many days in a year, you should not just return 365. That's terrible. Another example here. So, okay, write a function for me. Calculate leap years. If I give you years, tell me which years, whether or not it's a leap year. If you have learned the rule for the leap years, this is also wrong. So this is one of the suggestions. But luckily, Copilot is actually better than that. So those are the answers that recommended to me, but I was able to find other answers that actually make more sense. And as you can see, all the graded one are actually recommended by Copilot. So I can just press tab, and you will just bring that into my code, which is amazing. And then there are also some interesting features. So you can actually tell Copilot what you want to write in the comment, and you will try to write that for you. On the top one, it's actually basically find all the images without alternative text on the screen and give them a red border, right? So as someone who hates CSS, this is my saver. So I can never remember how to actually specify the style. So I have the same function called process, but the top one actually knows, okay, you are talking about HTML. So let me grab the tag name by image, right? For all of them without the alter attribute, and add a border style. So that's pretty impressive. For the same function, add a button called process. And this time I modify the comment query the students with last name Smith and sort by first name. And I also told it that I store data in the Firebase. So you actually write I think this is actually a pretty accurate code that could actually help me query Firebase. So as you probably can imagine, this is actually pretty useful for any developer, right? So sometimes it will recommend you something as silly as when there are always 365 days in a year, which some junior programmer might make this type of mistake. But on the other hand, it can actually increase your productivity a lot. So I'm actually super excited about this one. The other usage is as an engineer, I hate to write test cases. I know I should write it, but I hate to write it. So I think AI can actually cover that as well. Recently, there are some development on that area, and people use ChatGPT or GPT-3 to write test cases, and because AI can do everything, try all the combinations, so it's actually pretty reasonable. So I think that will help the code quality to become better. So overall, I see this as something that you can definitely improve your productivity. And as the new tool comes out, you should probably follow the trend and learn from it. Yeah.
Thank you, Hubert. So let me share my screen again. Because of time, I'm going to try and speed through the questions so that we have time for some of the new questions that have come in over chat. So here's a question for both of you. So this question was asked by Andy, works at KaiOS and is a software engineer. So like how well should like modern day PMs or software engineers learn about AI tools? Like, do you think they should be actively following them, or do you think that it's good enough to try out occasionally and just be kept up to date on these improvements? Maybe we can go with Grant first.
I think, yeah, definitely keep up with these tools, and if not using these tools directly, the applications that people build around them, and kind of it's useful to get ideas of what's possible. Some of the things people develop might be personally useful to you. And I think if you are kind of entrepreneurially minded, it's a huge opportunity as well. Kind of that force multiplier of being able to make use of these models to get at very least a proof of concept, if not something production ready, up without a lot of additional work. So I think that it's definitely huge, and would recommend that you do.
How about you, Hubert?
Yeah, agree on that. I know it could be a little bit overwhelming, but definitely follow the news, and then definitely pick a few that's relevant to your job, and play around it and make yourself more productive as a result.
Yeah, starting with performance reviews, right? And for those thinking of running your own restaurants, whose services to use going forward. All right, let me move on to the next slide. So we have a question from Felice, who's a writer, actually. Like, what's been the most challenging part when it comes to integrating GPT-3, ChatGPT into your products or workflows? Maybe Hubert can go first.
Yeah, overall, I think it's actually a very straightforward API or services to integrate with. The hardest part is still the ideas, right? What do you want to use it? Where do you want to apply it? Can you massage the input, the output, so that it's actually better? For example, for the performance review one, everyone can actually just write your own prompt to ChatGPT, right? And then is that good enough, right? What else can we offer to the customer so that they feel like, oh, this is actually the quality I'm expecting? I think that part of thinking process is critical, and that's actually the harder part. On the technical side, I don't think it's challenging at all, which is great news because everyone can do it. Yeah.
Awesome. And Grant?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Hubert just said. The API is really dead simple to use, and so you can get up and running with it really fast. But yeah, the point around kind of engineering the prompts that you provide it, figuring out there's a certain way that you learn how to ask it for things, and you kind of, with experience, you learn what's the right way and like what's the right level of detail to give it, how to order and structure the things that you ask it. Figuring out how to, like, you have this idea of, I saw in Hubert's app, there's all these inputs, like what are their pronouns, what language, and like all these different things. And I imagine, when you hit send, it kind of parameterizes that into a prompt and lays them in like particular ways in particular places, or even, you might even have it run through multiple different prompts. You might have it prompt one thing with one piece of information and then feed the output of that as the prompt into the next thing, or as part of the prompt in the next thing. There's also edit APIs available. So you might say, like, here's a template of something, replace everything with the name of this person, using a different, so it's like you build this chain of calls to this API that get you the output that you want. And so that bit of it, that is the much more difficult part of it than just like integrating the API, which takes seconds.
Awesome. So let's head on to the next question. From a question from Simon, who's in marketing. Like, any tips on how we can be AI first when it comes to building products? Maybe I'll have Grant go first.
I would question the mindset of thinking AI first as like a goal. Like, these are really useful tools. And so I would start with the problem and what are you trying to build and where you're trying to solve. And, it's very likely that AI can be part of that solution, especially some of these things that we've called out here. And, at the same time, you can work backwards. You can be sitting there playing with ChatGPT or the OpenAI API, and it can definitely inspire ideas for you once you kind of get how it works. That can help solve a question. But I guess I wouldn't build something with AI for the sake of building something with AI.
Right. And Hubert?
Yeah, totally agree. I think, like, start from the real problem, and then you can brainstorm solution. One of the solution might be AI approach, could be powered by AI, but definitely don't try to apply AI just for the sake of it. On the other hand, I think one interesting observation is that a lot of things we do regularly probably could be personalized a little bit more. And you can think about how in your offering today, right? If you offer even promotional email, today, most companies probably just send out the same promotional email to everyone. And we all know, like, the engage rate is not great because it's the same email, right? But can you personalize it better now, right? I know from other talk, I heard about some bank they want to offer different copies for their credit card application, right, or promotion to different customer segment now, because now it's possible for them to generate first a very personalized promotional email. They can say, hey, Hubert, as someone who recently come back to Taiwan, do you want to apply this credit card, which is the #1 choice for people come back from US to Taiwan, which probably is not true, but anyway, they can say a lot of things that echo my situation, just so that it becomes a more successful personalized message. So think about personalization before you think about AI.
Awesome. All right. And how long did it take for both of you to build the MVP version of each of your products? I think Grant briefly mentioned it, but if you don't mind sharing it again.
Yeah. So I think, we probably released it within 5 to 6 months of starting the company, but I would say that the first chunk of that was dedicated a lot to, like, forming the company. Leila and I had to move here from the US where we were before. So I'd say probably, like, and then we had to hire engineers to build it. And there's kind of a process of, trial and error with that in the beginning. So I would say it was probably about 3 to 4 months of, like, development in earnest to build the first version of what we had. And that was the first thing that we had people sign on to and start using. And it's hard to say even that meets the requirements of an MVP, what we rolled out with first, but people did use it. So I guess so.
Okay. And Hubert, for yours?
Yeah, ours is definitely a much simpler solution. So the MVP actually took maybe, I think 2 days for us, and it have no logging, no, just something that we can send out to other people to try it out for the performance review generator concept. And that took us 2 days. And the rest of the time spent was me struggling with TypeScript, JavaScript, Firebase, and all those things that are not related to AI at all.
Yeah, I think personally for myself, when I'm building side projects in the future, it should save me quite a bit of time if they can help me with CSS. I think like Hubert, I'm not, I don't really like CSS. I spend too much time centering things. So yeah, I hope it will help. Right, so question from Yuan PJ, I think, who's a research engineer. So you've shared this during your talk, how big of a team it would take to build your initial prototype, and would you mind to sort of expand upon that? Would you mind sharing how big is the team today, and how's the team, the data science team and all that looking like today for Momos?
Yeah. So this is actually kind of funny because we know a lot of other people who are, building startups. You start to kind of have this community around it, and you can share notes. And with one group that we were talking to, somebody said, "Hey, does anyone know how to rein in their GPU compute costs? Just DM me." And I was actually curious what problems they were having, because there are certain things that GPT-3 is not going to be able to do for us that we do want to do with machine learning. That's why we've hired out a data team. So I wanted to kind of pick their brain on what their challenges were. And I asked them, and they said, "Oh yeah, we spend about $250,000. I forget if it was a monthly or it must have been yearly, because these are still kind of smaller guys. And our cost for GPT-3 have never exceeded the 4 figures in a month. So it's just so no, it doesn't require a huge budget at all. We don't pay hosting for the model, we just pay for usage. When we actually classify a review, we pay per the number of tokens that are in that review. And so that's pretty much that. As far as our data science team, we have our head of data, Sean, and then we have 2 data scientists, and we have a data analyst. So not a huge team, and they're kind of empowered to build things with GPT-3. And then there's also a number of other things that they're able to use their kind of more traditional tools to build.
Got it. I think a team of 3 with the type of work that you guys are doing, I would say maybe a couple of years back, it would be unimaginable to be able to do that with just even launch the initial prototype, right? Without any data scientists in the team.
Yeah, we didn't hire any data scientists for about a year and a quarter or something like that. And we got very, very far before we needed to do that.
Awesome. All right. Moving on to the next question from Belinda, who's a freelance front-end developer. So for both of you, any learning resources you would wish to recommend for those who want to learn AI tech but don't plan to acquire it through formal education? So maybe I'll get Hubert to answer this first.
Yeah, I think there's a very useful newsletter called Ben's Byte. He sent out daily AI summary. So if you want to embrace all the news, exciting news, definitely sign up. I just shared a link in the chat. So it has a lot of different new application, as well as the latest news on the technology, sometimes also some learning material as well. So I would definitely recommend going to their website and sign up for the newsletter. I think for the fundamental one, actually, there are a lot of resource on Coursera or even Alpha can offer some learning courses as well. So I think depending on the level of expertise you want to get, I would encourage you to try to leverage an online resource first. I think there are a lot of good resources already.
Cool. Thanks for sharing the link. And Grant?
Yeah, I would agree. You know, when I kind of made my switch over, like I mentioned before, in university, I studied political science, and so I was really interested in kind of getting into tech, and so to get those skills, I used Coursera, and that's where I learned how to program in R and SQL and all these sorts of things, because I was actually originally interested in becoming a data scientist, and you know, just kind of through the way things turned out, I ended up doing product instead. I actually have someone at my door, but yeah, so and that backing was super crucial to being able to work with GPT-3.
Cool. Got it. So Belinda, if you're here, I guess it shouldn't be a problem for you to learn through Coursera and the newsletter. If Grant, who's a political science graduate, can do it, I'm sure you can as well. So no worries. All right, so I think that's all the questions that we have for the panel section. So we'll now go through audience live Q&A. So Ariel has been helping to collect these questions and we'll be going through them now. Okay, so I believe Heidi asked this question earlier in Zoom. I do have some questions on data security to use. It doesn't mean that you need to send your customer data to it. So maybe I can get Grant, you to share. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this was during my presentation. We don't send any sensitive data to OpenAI. When it comes to the ad copy generation, we do send publicly available information about the restaurant. What's the name of the restaurant? What's their cuisine? All these sorts of things. Like those do go into the prompt. For reviews, we send a text to the review, but these are all, again, publicly available reviews, so nothing sensitive there. We never send the name of anyone or anything like that. So yeah, in terms of data security, I think we're pretty much above board here. We're running it against stuff that's posted publicly for the most part.
Awesome. Hubert, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think for this topic, you have to be thoughtful while you design your product, right? So for example, for performance review, I collect the names, whether or not that's a real person's name versus a random person's name. If I do want to protect their identity, I could replace that, right? So, and that could be a good way to respect your customer privacy. But if you are not careful, you could be sending a lot of privacy data over the internet to ChatGPT. And then, but there's also the other question, right? How are they dealing with our data? So nowadays I use ChatGPT to give me a daily encouragement. I write a prompt like say something great about me today, right? So ChatGPT will say, Hubert, you're awesome. You are the best person in the world, right? So like imagine like ChatGPT slowly learn like how I behave every day by our secret conversation and now being embedded into their model. That would be interesting. So definitely interesting topic to be watched out for.
Oh, thank you. I think the general take here is that using whether be it GPT-3 or similar services, it's the same as any third-party service that you would use for your company. So things like how you classify your data, how you sort of audit your vendors. So these are the usual things that you need to do. And only if you trust them, then you should send even public customer data over to them. Right. So I think this will be the same part of any vendor evaluation that your company will need to do. All right. All right. I don't know which Lily this is. Just curious. Have any of you tried to figure out whether like content has been generated by AI or not? Like maybe Hubert, have you played with that before?
I think it's well, the short answer is no, eventually, right? So it's the same question as can you really add a like try to add anything in the image so that I can always detect it's copyrighted, right? So people can alter the image and destroy it. So far, there's no effective way to protect that. So so I think there will be some back and forth, like people can come up with creative idea to embed some of the signature so that it could be detected by some of the detector, but in the long run, I don't think that's possible.
Got it. All right. So let me move on to the next question. So it looks like it's a question for Alpha Camp. Would you agree that your customer group will no longer just be people who want to learn programmers, but people in different functions who can now be empowered with AI without relying on engineers? So a question by Brian. So I think our current take here at Alpha Camp is that it's similar to the current sort of like form of anxiety and worries that people have. We do think that it's kind of similar to, I don't know if you remember about DeepMind's AlphaGo, which sort of defeated a professional Go or Weiqi player from Korea. And back then, the sort of sentiment is that no one would be interested in playing Go anymore, with AI defeating even like the top players. But that has proven to not be true. But instead, a lot of the pro players have started to integrate AI into their day-to-day training programs, and as a result, what they've noticed across the entire field is that all the human players have improved their skill levels by a couple of levels, which was previously like very challenging for pro players. And human players have started to be able to defeat their AI opponents. So when it comes to tech, I think it will be the same thing. For programmers, I think there will still be a huge need and demand for them. Over the past few years, building very complicated systems and products have gotten even more challenging. And tools like GPT-3, AI, and all that would really help us to accelerate our ability to get off the boilerplate, the simple development, and start working on the more complicated things. I like Hubert's example, right? I'm not good with CSS, but if the AI can help me get the simple things done, I can focus more on product level thinking and more complicated systems that I need to build. So I think there will be people who will be able to do more, even if you are not technically trained. But for programmers, I think a lot of the software leaders have also started to think, like, can we integrate them for code reviews, do a quick machine pass first before someone reviews it, things like that. So I'm very excited. And I think the role of a programmer will move beyond like just writing simple code, but allow us to focus more on building very complicated systems in future to solve our needs. Okay. And do we have any more questions? Oh, so Eric has a question. So for, I guess, both of you, have you looked at any other alternative AI tools besides those offered by OpenAI? Grant, have you guys tried out any others?
Yeah, we haven't tried out many others because so far so good, but we have definitely explored other options, and I do try to stay aware of what else is available, just for the reasons I mentioned earlier, that you never know when the kind of rug's getting pulled out from under you, that who knows what's going on there. And so keeping up with what's available, especially what's available open source, it's definitely a priority for me.
Awesome. And Hubert?
On the tech side, similarly, we haven't explored alternative solution yet, but earlier I mentioned, or even Glenn mentioned, like even on the image generation side, right? There are also a lot of interesting one like Midjourney. Like you should definitely check it out and get yourself familiar with that. I think that's that one is a huge saver for you to add an image to your presentation, for example. Now I always use that for my presentation. Previously, I could never find the right stock image for that. So get yourself familiar with that, play around it, know how to generate one for yourself. Yeah, and then like I mentioned, Ben's Bytes newsletter offer a lot of different tools every day. There are new tools being created, so definitely check it out.
Cool. I personally use I just realized it's actually also by OpenAI, but I personally use Whisper, another model that they released for me to transcribe podcasts. I don't like to listen to podcasts, but there seems to be a wealth of information there. So I use Whisper to transcribe them and just sort of read it through at my own time. So there are other models out there as well, depending on your needs. Yeah, so check them out and try them out. And will be very happy to hear from Eric, you sharing your thoughts on some of these tools in the future as well. All right. Okay, I think that's all that we have for today. Thank you to everyone who have asked questions, as well as our two speakers, Grant and Hubert, for sharing your thoughts and your experience with building products with AI tools. I think that's a wrap for today. So if everyone could, spend a little bit of time to give a round of virtual applause for our speakers, who have prepared for their talks, and then come here and answer your questions live, that would be awesome. Yeah, so you can use the Zoom chat, you can use the reactions. I'm waiting for that wave of applause from all the lilies that we have attending here today. Um, yeah, they're still there. Thank you to my fellow lilies. Yes. Awesome, thank you. So as promised, I do have a little section at the end to talk about, to get your feedback as well. Feedback is very important for us. We've sort of proposed this based on a lot of this event today, based on the attention and the interest that people have. So we'd love to hear your feedback about how the event is here today, any other topics that you would love to hear. If you complete the survey, you'll get a video recording of today's talk, so you can go back and listen or transcribe it to text if you hate watching videos and listening to audio podcasts like me. And we do have an interesting opportunity for you to have a one-on-one meeting with one of the speakers, and we'll choose 1 or 2 persons from the survey feedback. So be sure to complete it. Ariel has helped to share the link on Zoom. Okay, so one last thing before we go. I'll quickly talk about the RISE program that AC will be, Alpha Camp, or AC for short, will be starting this year. So based on this diagram here, you can see one of the key things that we have here is that this RISE program is about creating future leaders in tech. So for AC, we've pretty much focused on boot camps, and we've been pretty successful in helping people to break into tech. But the industry does not just need more engineers, scientists, or lead designers. The industry do need more future leaders as well. Without leaders, the industry cannot grow, and if the industry doesn't grow, there will be no sort of space and room for future talents to learn from and for them to grow into. So the RISE program is really about creating more future leaders in tech, which we feel like is a sort of a big gap in the whole tech education industry. So one of the 3 skills that we think is really important is that for any leaders, whether you are a technical leader or a people manager leader, sort of depending on which career path you want to go, we think that there are 3 essential skills. So business sense, so being able to think with a holistic business perspective from even a team or department level, people skills, being able to lead and manage people to drive success, and technical skills, possessing the breadth and depth to solve different type of problems. So the sort of the ideal target audience for our RISE program will be folks that you have already gotten a pretty good solid grasp on your technical skills, or you are an emerging leader, meaning you are thinking about or have just started taking on leadership, be it technical or managerial leadership positions, and you're looking to move up, and you have a lot of questions about what you need to learn and all that. And this is actually the perfect program for you, because we will be consolidating and having a few programs led by experienced speakers and instructors for you to learn from. So you will be learning from quite a few people. So we currently have a few confirmed mentors coming from Fast, TaskRabbit, Airbnb, Carousel, Crypto.com. And for some of our trial run programs, you will be learning from peers who are from Meta, Line, and all that. Because I think at a certain level, you will be learning from your peers as much as you're learning from the mentors. So having the right type of peers for you to learn from is very important as well. So if you're interested in this, please fill out the feedback survey. I will send you more information in about the mid of February when we have the program ready. Right, and so last but not least, please be sure to follow Alpha Camp on LinkedIn. You may find that some of the older content are still in Mandarin, but we will be having more content in English going forward. And this event today is just the start. All right, and that's it from us today. Thank you again for your time, and we'd like to thank the speakers again for joining us today and sharing their experiences. So please be sure to help complete the survey. I'll link this in the chat, and we'll see you the next time for our next event. Thank you.